Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to the Knowledge Gap Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Ignace. You're about to watch a video or listen, if you're listening to the podcast, on the power of social media, personal branding, and podcasting. I was lucky enough to be invited to Keller Williams here in Farragut, Tennessee, to do a workshop for a bunch of their realtors on how to post on social media, how to build a personal brand, and the value of starting a podcast to grow your business. So if you're somebody in the entrepreneurial space, if you're a business owner, if you're a salesperson, if you're somebody who's just trying to build a brand or you're in sales and you need to get better at social media presence, this is for you. You're going to want to stick around and watch this entire video. Grab a piece of paper, grab some notes. There's a lot of really great content in here that all of my clients use that I think is going to be really beneficial for you guys. If you like this, at the end, just give me a like and a comment so the algorithm will shoot this out to more people. It helps me grow. If you haven't, go ahead and subscribe. The more comments you guys give me, the more I can help you create really good content just like this so we can keep building a community around helping you grow your business. Thanks guys, enjoy the video. All right, here we go. We're getting started here. So I'll just do a little introduction of who I am, and then we'll get into power of personal branding, social media. But yeah, I grew up in Johnson City, Tennessee, went to UT, graduated 2018 in accounting and finance. All throughout that time, I was doing door-to-door sales with this company called Southwestern. I did that for 7 years. I probably spent like 7,000 hours doing door-to-door sales, which is pretty crazy. And this is the kind of door-to-door sales where you have no leads, and you go to a different part of the country that you've never been. You don't know where you're living until the week before you get there. By the end of the summer, though, you could get so good at this is that everyone would like you, which is a cool thing. Got to graduate totally debt-free and be in the top 1% of a 168-year-old company. Then, after that, I was like, I was recruiting and I was running a big 43-person sales organization when I was 24. Decided to quit that job back in October because I just traveled too much. Got married. But I just ended up starting a podcast called The Knowledge Gap. It was actually called something totally different, which is why I have expertise, because I went and screwed all this stuff up for about 6 months. And I learned the hard way how to do this stuff. So I'm going to teach you the easy way and all the stuff that took me 6 months, 7 months to learn today, which is going to be really good. I started a podcast though because I wanted to impact more people, inspire more people than I was at my current job, being limited to a certain number of people, which happened to be college students at the time. So I was also able to learn how to brand myself to be able to recruit college students to do a straight commission door-to-door sales job, not knowing where they're going to live in a different part of the country that they've never been to, and go and sell. In my group, top 9 out of top 10 in our group was my group this past summer, for example. So we were able to help people not only go do this crazy thing that 30% of people quit. Now, started that podcast. At the same time, I was pursuing and building an online fitness business as well, where we sell literally online, everything social media, Instagram based. Once we started figuring out the Instagram, it didn't really matter what the market was doing anymore because we were just branding ourselves. There's going to be people who spend their money doing fitness, for example, but they're going to spend it with us because they know us and they trust us. People buy why you do what you do and they buy you. There's a million realtors, there's a million fitness trainers out there, but that's the power of social media that can make a big difference. So we built that, hit 6 figures in like 4 or 5 months from scratch, which is pretty cool. Started doing the consulting with the podcast as it was growing. Now we're basically here. Done a lot of different stuff. I guess the last thing I almost forgot to mention is I do have a foundation. So we're starting clubs in high schools and colleges to basically teach things that aren't taught in school, help people master their purpose. So if you have any interest in that at the end, come talk to me about it. But today, we are going to be running over these 4 things. This is going to be straight to the point with stuff on the screen for you to be able to write down, take notes, and it's going to be the mentality behind what we're doing. I do a bunch of stuff. I've got a foundation and 2 businesses all at the same time, and the only way I can run it all is essentially by having a really huge mission, a big why, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and then also just because my methods are really good. I leverage systems like crazy, and I don't do all the stuff that doesn't make sense. I do the stuff that is high income generating, which is why this is going to make a lot of sense for a lot of people. As we go through, you're going to be learning all about social media. You're going to have some takeaways. We're going to do some pair and practices. So you'll get to know some people. By the end of this, you're going to be in like one of 2 boats. Boat 1 being somebody who's like, wow, I would love to get better at social media. Maybe you're a crazy person like me and Brandy and you want a podcast. That's great. So if you're somebody who's like, I would love to leverage my time in this area. I'd love to get some more sales. I'd love to get more leads. I'd love to network better. And you're like a boat 1 person. I'll have you like stick around, like group up here at the front, here at the end. We'll chat. I'd love to set up a follow-up meeting with you to see if there's any way that we can help you guys. You might be a boat 2 person and you might just be like, I'm so good at social media marketing. I got this. And that's fine too. No big deal. But at that point, I'll have like a little split and stuff like that at the end so that way we can chat and follow up. And if you want to be like Brandy and have all of the stuff done for you so you can focus on just income producing stuff, I can help you out. We're starting with objections. This is going to be good. Everybody in here looks like they're experts at social media. You've probably never felt any of these ever before. Who in here has ever felt like any of these before? Maybe you disagree with it. Maybe you think it's like not a good thing. Yes. Maybe you don't.
I don't know what to talk about.
That's really normal. Like, what's the point? No one's going to see it. We've all felt these before, and I know you felt them before because I felt them before. When I was first starting to post on social media back in the fall, we're doing our online fitness company because I'm like the least social media savvy person almost ever, way back then, like 6 months ago. And my buddies and I were partners, and we started building this company and we're like, hey, we've got to start posting like crazy and here's our strategy. And we started to do it, even though my posts I felt like were awful. What you have to accept is that you're going to feel some of this stuff if you want to use these types of platforms and avenues to get new leads. And you want to get in this top 1% mentality here. One of the biggest things I have to coach myself on all the time is just because it's different doesn't mean it's bad. Because a lot of times we get used to these habits and we just get stuck in this zone, but then the world changes around us and we're still doing the same thing. And if you think about how business works and if you want to be around the next 5 or 10 years, you actually need to be changing along with what's changing in the world, kind of following the market. Does that kind of make sense? And this is where it's going. Right? You guys heard of Grant Cardone before? Yes, he's a big realtor guy. He makes more money than probably almost anybody else. And he will consistently do it for the rest of his life and the rest of time for whoever owns his podcast, YouTube channel, all of his social medias, because he can get leads like that. Do you think he's suffering from the market right now? No, he's not, because he's built that up over time. And that's one of the biggest mistakes is people have all these objections to starting. And it's really not that hard once you get used to the habits, then you can succeed because it doesn't have to be a huge thing. These are some top things, right? So habits, systems, sales, accountability. This is how you grow your business. We're going to focus a lot on systems and branding today. Top producers, going to go over this because y'all are all going to be top producers, right? Not everybody can be a top producer. And what's the difference? It turns out that they're coachable. That's something you got to learn, right? Is, oh man, I got to learn to let go of the ego, right? Most importantly, the one highlighted is the people who sell the most really are just the people who get in front of the most qualified leads, the fastest. So the goal is, as a realtor, I'm sure you guys talk about this a lot, is how can you get the most number of people saying those types of things to you? When they're ready, they pick you. And that's where it's hard because it's very saturated. There's millions of realtors and you're competing with all of them, right? So average questions. How do I get in front of more leads? How do I sell in a down market? These are questions that probably everybody has right now. The market doesn't affect it. It's really not a huge difference from year to year because they've got a really good system. That's what you're trying to build with social media marketing. This is me back when I was 19 years old. And this is when I first started trying social media with my business, selling books door to door. I had 2.9 thousand views over a summer in this area of Oklahoma. I had a really good summer out here. I was probably in the top 1 or 2% of my age range of second year salespeople. So I made about $30,000 and my social media limited me. The PR on Facebook can get really bad. And so that was that summer. If your PR is not good, there's just going to be a cap on what you can do. So the better my social media got, the next year I sold better than that. I actually made about 40,000 that year, and then this year was 46. And this is, by the way, a 30,000 person county, and it's one place. And all of these views were in the same county. So about 50% of the people in that area saw my post about what I was doing, knew who I was, and told their friends about it. So when I knocked on doors, I would be like, "You're the book man. My sister bought from you. Come on in." And that's the power of what social media does. What if you could network without being there? Bingo. That's the goal. That's what this is all about, is networking when you're not physically there. Networking when you're asleep. That's what podcasting and social media will do for you. And when I had this summer, the difference in 2,000 views in that small of an area was literally double the income. I had an $80,000 12-week summer because everyone knew who I was and they liked what I was doing. You guys aren't going to know a lot of these numbers, but what this number means right here, 56%, means every door I knocked on that answered, 56% of the time they invited me in. Which if you've ever had a door-to-door salesperson come in, you may never have let them in. So that's crazy.
That wasn't that long ago.
That was during COVID too.
That's what I'm saying.
During COVID, I had my best summer ever. Knocking in Virginia.
Letting you in their house.
And they did not care because all their friends had bought from me and I was a local. And that's what you're trying to do. Whether you're from Louisiana, or somewhere else, it doesn't matter. If you can get into your local market and everyone knows you, you're going to be the realtor. We sold educational resources, so we're helping kids with school. Those are things people talked about. And then by the end of the summer, it's just you're absolutely crushing it. You guys might have a second part of your job, recruiting. That's what I had as a recruiter with Southwest. You might recruit some realtors if you end up building a team here. The way I could recruit people to sell books door to door, straight commission, doing something they'd really never done before, you have to be a master personal brander. If the why behind it comes out, people will do it. But if you think about door to door sales on its face, who would ever say yes to that? But if you get to know the person, you're going to say yes to that because you understand why we're doing it. And why you're doing it is to build mental toughness. You can do that, you can do anything. And so when you hear the why behind it, setting yourself up for the rest of your life. And so now you have all these connections. So when you get into the why, people sign up and do it, but it's only through personal branding. And the best way to do it is through podcasting, social media. When you get so good at personal branding, you can get people to drink Kool-Aid. But don't do that. Bad. Don't drink the Kool-Aid. Market takes a dip around this time, just in general. That was like across a lot of different industries. And then we put a ton of resources into social media, and we shot right back up and are doing better than last fall. Goal's real simple, guys. So all you're trying to do is get an engaged following. An engaged following doesn't mean the biggest following. Simple. Engaged following is a consistent lead generation, okay? So I have, I think, like 1,680 followers on my personal Instagram, for example. Now, when you hear that compared to what we normally think of social media success is like 10,000, 20,000, a million, and all these kind of numbers. They're not realistic to start with. From my 1,600 something followers, I've generated probably like $40,000 in sales for my online fitness company in just like a couple months because we're nurturing it. It's not about getting every single person to buy. It's about finding the right people. And what's interesting about social media, when you post like a fitness reel, right, and someone likes that reel, who's the person who likes a fitness reel? Somebody who's into fitness. Who's the ideal target for a fitness coach? Somebody who's into fitness. What if it's something of showing them how to do something? Who wants to learn how to work out better? An ideal client for a fitness trainer. Who doesn't know how to work out? Who's the ideal client to sell to? Right? Does that make sense? So you can be really strategic with an ideal audience. And when you post something, you're getting likes and follows from people who literally love what you're talking about. Our goal is 10% growth per month. So if you're 1,000 subscribers, you're just trying to get like 100 new ones every month. Just about consistency over time. Because if you just start off with like 100 and you're no good at social media and you've never done this before, a bunch of months in, your percentage goes down. It's like you'll still have 1,400 followers by the end of the year just by consistent small posting. And from all of these people, they're going to be people who actually like you because they've seen your content and they talk to you. And it works out really good. If you're thinking about it long term too, if you're not doing this and other people are, this is like a 5-year, if you just grow 10% per month on average. For 5 years, you'll end up having $136,000 or 136,000 following or subscriber base for whatever platform you're on, if you're just focusing on that one platform. And then have all these people be messaging you and be able to do it from your couch or wherever you might want to work from. If you put out something really controversial, your subscribers will probably go up. It's weird. There's going to be people out there who like what you're saying. Most people don't unfollow you. They may not watch every single thing that you ever do. It's about having consistency towards an ideal audience so they know who you are. So 3 main parts. This is going to be a practical piece. You got to understand how to reach your ideal audience and what your ideal audience even is. You need to post correctly, and there's that consistency and growth strategy piece. And we don't have enough time to go through every single thing today, obviously. That's why I have a consulting business and coaching. And if you're somebody who's serious about this and want to talk about it, we can follow up and see if there's some services that would help you. But we're going to really focus on the target audience, getting you a nice idea of what that is. So regardless of which boat you're in, 1 or 2, that you can use this. And we're going to talk about a simple posting strategy and a general overview of like Instagram. We're not going to talk about Facebook. We're not going to talk about LinkedIn. We're not going to do YouTube. We're not going to do podcast platforms. We're just going to focus on Instagram because that's all we have time for today. What is a target audience? Why is it a target audience, right? So what a target audience is, it's your ideal buyer. So think in your brain of like the exact person that you'd want to buy from you. And it can be different per person. Every personal trainer at Elevate Wellness has a different target audience. So think real quick, like what would your target person be? Just like write it down. Who is that person to you? Is it someone who owns a business? Is it someone who's a serial investor? Is it an Airbnb-er? Is it, a single family first-time home buyer? Who are all these people that you want to get in front of? Okay, because this is going to help you with your target audience. Again, this helps your personal branding because if there's Walmart and there's like this really amazing customizable rug store next door, and you're in the market for rugs, where are you going to go? You're going to go to the rug store, right? Does that make sense?
Walmart.
You might go to Walmart. Walmart goes that way if you're trying to save the money, but if you're trying to maybe it's your dream home or whatever it is, right? You probably want the perfect rug, so it depends on exactly what kind of person. And there's a market for both. But the difference is Walmart has billions of dollars to market to everybody, and the rug store can only market to one type of person. And it takes a lot less money to market to one type of person than to everybody. Because if Walmart's talking to everybody, but it's losing out on the high-end business, like home investments, right? A rug person, right? Someone who really wants a really good rug. That person is going to outcompete the bigger brands. So you've got to niche down to that ideal person. So when they see your social media or your podcast, that it says, oh, this is for me. Because if it's too big, it's not for
Can I
me.
give an example?
Yeah, give an example.
There was this guy that had a t-shirt and it said, your grandma's realtor. Literally, all all his branding is because he feels like that they got taken advantage of always, right?
And that guy might kill it. Who knows? If you think about it strategically, grandmothers know all the grandmothers. They've lived here forever. They talk at church. They know everybody. And they're easy to get referrals from. And they have all these kids and grandkids. Okay, so we're going to pair and practice really quick. Find somebody you like or don't like. It doesn't matter. You're going to answer these questions really quick, okay? And then we're going to share. What's your transformation you are offering, okay? I'm going to explain this really quick. Transformation is like if someone comes and listens to your social media reel or they read your post, what is the value you're giving them? So, for example, a college student, my podcast is a young person's guide to mastering their purpose. If you listen to my podcast, you will figure out your purpose in life earlier so you can set up decisions later in your life that you actually enjoy doing, especially for like your work, because 88% of people don't like their job. So I'm solving transformation is that you'll end up liking what you do. So that's the transformation you're getting from my podcast. If there's no transformation, they're not listening. Second thing, what do they believe? And you get really specific with this. And there's no wrong way to do this. Are they conservative? Are they liberal? What do they desire? What makes them work hard? What kind of job do they do? In your case, I put this in for you. What kind of houses do they buy? How old are they? Are they 15? Are they 55? And what's their income level? Middle income? Are we looking high income? What are those things, right? Because this is going to help you figure out what to post about, what to talk about. Because if you know that their biggest fear is working a 9-to-5 job the rest of their life, right? You can make content about how to get your time back from investing in real estate and building Airbnbs. Oh, cool. And now you're connecting with that person. That's one example. There's many ways to do it with real estate. You could be educating people on finances, why owning a home. Why you should buy your first home would be appealing to the new home buyer audience, people who are renting. What are the problems you go through when you're renting? Okay, so we have everybody 2.5 minutes to write down and answer those questions for yourself. And then we will chat about a couple. Who's ready to share? All right, let's get one person from the left side, one person from the right side. Don't be shy. Everyone will make fun of you later.
For the first one, we said financial freedom.
Okay, that's like a desire.
Yeah, how to build financial freedom.
We said for the majority, because our target we feel like is our peers, and they're still playing sports, IUT, and college athletes. Nobody's really ready to buy a house yet. But for the most part, what they believe is, after this, if they don't go pro, they have to get a job, buy a single family home, the American dream, but on the suburbs,
Yeah.
But what do they like or dislike? They like luxury, that's for sure. What makes them work hard? Again, motivation to take care of their family.
Perfect. Okay.
How old are they? Probably in the 18 to 25 range.
Okay, perfect. So if you're talking about that, right, you're obviously in the short term, you probably need to get some sales from some other places than the 18 to 25. But if your goal is to basically be the realtor for all these athletes, it's not a bad idea. The other way too is that you create, when your social media, it doesn't have to always be about home buying. That's really important. It doesn't have to be about real estate. Brandy's podcast is going to be for single moms building wealth. She's going to be giving tips for all these people, and they're going to be listening. And one of the tips every now and again might be about buying a house or real estate or equity. But really what she's doing, she's branding herself to where they know her really well. And she'll throw out there that I'm a realtor, and if you ever need to buy a house. And then what she's going to do is she's going to, from her ideal person, build a community of people on Facebook from this, right? She's going to funnel people to this group where she is the expert for everybody. And she's just adding value to these people. So now she has an open conversation when these people wanted to buy a house or something and they need realtor service, they're always going to her. So don't get stuck in this I have to be about real estate. Not really. They just need to know who you are. And if Kathy, I think I heard yours was over there about protecting grandmothers, there's a percentage of people who love that mission and would listen to what you talk about so they can protect their grandmother.
It's extremely personal, and I feel like that people need more empathy, more sympathy, more support. It's got to be warm and fuzzy.
Yeah, absolutely right. So that's very unique to you, right? So you're the perfect person for that. So the question is basically, how can you get in front of those types of people on social media, for example, to where you can be their person? And so now what you do from here is you think, where are all the places I can go connect with these people? You go become that expert in that area, and everybody from sports entertainment becomes your person, and everybody who's going through the craziness of estate planning, so on and so forth. And other realtors, they're not. That's true, right? So you're going to be providing a better service. This is me and Brandy. This is a recent post I just did. And we're going to analyze this post really quick because I got 3 leads generate from this one post. So 3 things that we're going to look at. There's 3 sections, really 4 sections to every post that you do, whether it's a reel or a grid post. But we're just going to focus on the grid post. And just an overview of social media in general. Grid posts are like window shopping. A reel is basically a salesperson. Reels will get you more follows, get you in front of people who you don't know yet. Stories are nurturing people who already follow you. So that's like selling to people you've talked to before, mentioning things like that. But those are the two salespeople, and they're directed towards two different types of people. So your story should be more personal. Your reels should be more general to catch more people, right? And your grid posts go everywhere, and it's your window shopping. So it needs to be what you do, why you do it. So the top is what we call your hook. And Instagram, that's the only thing that'll pop up at the top for like reels and different things, right? You only can see that top. So if you put anything else right there, it's not going to be good. It doesn't pop up well in the algorithm. The middle part is your body. This is where you're explaining what's going on so they can understand it. Okay, there's two types of people on Instagram. You've got your people who look at the pictures and the reels and they never read, and you got people who read. So you need to have good for both. Some people have really, really good pictures, but they don't put anything over here and they're missing half the audience. Last is your call to action. If you are someone who wants to start a podcast, DM me podcast. I'd love to hear about your idea. And then the fourth part is your hashtags, which is just 4, 5, 6 things that essentially are about your post. Okay, sweet. So those are the 4 things. What this leads to when you do it like this is people messaging you podcast. Like, oh, that's me. He wants to call his thing Sauna Talks. You ever heard of Hot Ones? The reason that is successful is because it's a category of one. There's nothing else like it, where people do an interview and they eat these crazy hot wings and cry together. Right? There's a million podcasts where they interview people, right? What makes it different? His was Sauna Talks. That's good, right? Because he wants to sit in a sauna and interview people and keep turning the heat up and see what happens. So you should write these things down. Copywriting is what it's called. Hook, body, call to action, hashtags. Okay, you need to have all 4 if you want your post to reach as many people as possible, and if you actually want to make something happen. Because if you're not doing that, there's no point in posting. Now, a couple little tricks that we learned. If you do story polls, so a story, if you don't know, a story is when you post it and it's only there for a day. And a poll is this thing where you click this little tag, you can ask a question and have people answer. And if you do that in the morning and you have people answer that poll and you're getting engagement by the afternoon, your account has more engagement. So your reel, if you post it in the afternoon after posting in the morning a story, it will go out to more people. Okay, so we're gonna make a post really quick. So take a picture of whatever you're doing and we're gonna practice posting one thing right now if you're game.
Does it need to be business-wise? Can it be anything?
You can post anything you want, take a picture, anything you want. Okay. Okay, is everyone posted?
No. Yeah.
Okay. If you haven't posted yet, I want you to just pause really quick. Put your phone down. I want you to hear me really quick. If you haven't posted yet, you're overthinking it. Except for Kathy. Kathy doesn't know how, but you're likely just overthinking it. Just do it. Just put it out there. Remember how we're going to feel, right? I don't know what to post. I don't know if this is right. Or you're going to feel that the first 25 times you do it. Everything's mentality. It's all in your head, okay? The people who win are the people who just show up. So don't worry about if it's perfect. And if you want to put in a ton of time and research and learn on your own, that's great. And it doesn't have to be like this is 5,000 view video, and it has nothing to do with podcasting or sales. And it was me doing this deadlift PR of 300 some pounds because I was like, this is cool. And I posted it and people liked it. Now, at the time, of course, I'm selling fitness, but it had nothing to do with fitness coaching. But I did have like 100 or 200 people like that. And guess what? I messaged all 200 of them because they already liked it. And that turned into like 10 clients. It's really that simple. You may not get 5,000 views on your first one. This definitely wasn't my first one. But once you kind of get into your ideal market, people start following you, they'll get shot out and they'll keep rewatching it. So growth strategy. So now we've talked about a lot of different stuff. I know this is one sitting, right? It's a lot. All you need to do is consistent posting. Don't be crazy and post 10 times every day. Just post twice a day. Story in the morning, reel in the afternoon. Take a picture on the weekends. What are you doing for fun? And then, follow 10 new accounts every day. Just follow people who are your ideal person. If you want to, be the realtor for a bunch of small business owners, go find them on Instagram in Knoxville and go follow them. They might follow you back. And then you can message them and say, hey, how's it going? I love this business that you do. And then they'll talk to you. And then you'll be like, hey, I'd love to get coffee. And now they can become your person if they don't have a realtor. Like start 10 new conversations, 3 to 5 stories per day, 1 to 2 reels, ideally. Again, done is better than perfect. If you're just like checking it off in the morning, if you're going on a workout in the morning, you're going to appeal to people who do workouts in the morning. People who are watching that type of stuff who find it impressive are probably people who are going to be in your target market, for example. Does that make sense? All right, now the good part. Podcast is about something that you're the expert in, something that's unique to you that makes you different than everybody else, and it builds credibility. What if you could nurture leads and people get to know you without you having to do the talking? What if the best things you've ever trained someone you train, or the best things you've ever said to somebody that turned them into a client, or the best things that you add value to people in your family, everyone could hear? What would they think about you? Their opinion would go up, right? Oh, that's a cool person. If they did it over and over and over and heard all these really cool things about this one thing that's like your thing, directed in a good way to where it helps you with your sales leads and making money, right? They're going to come to you. That's value. It builds credibility. I'm going to work with a Kathy because like, man, I don't want my grandma. I'm going to have them with my grandma. I'm going to protect my grandma. Dang it. Versus someone else who doesn't have a mission. We like Brandy because Brandy's really nice. Her mission's good and her podcast is about to be good. So we like who she is more than, there's a million realtors. Before I met her, we had a different one. We switched. Why? Because we like her. You don't need to be afraid of saying who you are. Don't be crazy though. Okay, that's my little thing. Podcasting gets you speaking gigs, workshops, where you can get in front of your ideal person. It can get you an ultra-focused following, so the exact people that you want to be interacting. This is a good one. It's unlimited content to repurpose. So you make one episode on a podcast, it turns into posting for like a week. Or you're leveraging your time because you're building a long-term community. Right? Podcasting, the whole point is you have your podcast and all your content up here is funneling toward this community of like-minded people right here where you're the leader and they all come to you for advice. Right? Does that make sense? That's how you're building it conceptually as a business. Literally on the way here, I have a friend of mine who I trained at Southwestern back in college. I trained him to sell books. I've been posting a lot of stuff about my consulting business and he's been listening to my stuff. He texts me almost every week. I love what you're putting out. And then today when he decided, he says, you know what? I want to get some sales training. He calls me up. He says, hey, I'm about to spend $7,000 on this sales coaching thing. But man, you know what? You're better than those guys. Would you want to do that? And because he's listening to my podcast, he's going to be a client tomorrow. That's what the podcast does. Because the first time you talk to someone, they're not probably buying a house. I don't talk about sales much on my podcast. I talk about figuring out your purpose. But honestly, if you want to be good in sales, guess what? You got to figure out your purpose. So lead generation, just talked about that. It's a recruiting tool. Imagine people walk in to a recruiting meeting. If you're recruiting somebody, they already know who you are really, really well, but you haven't talked to them. And that's like part of the homework. Like I have people at church, they're awesome guys. They listen to my podcast every single week and they're like, dude, I feel like I'm getting to know you super well. And I'm like, oh, we need to like hang out because I don't know you, right? And that's an amazing problem to have if you're running a business or a realtor in sales, right? That's the idea. And there's extra revenue too. There's more ways to make money, right? One obvious way is to get more leads for you to personally sell for the craft that you sell, which is houses and real estate. The other ways, as it grows, you can make residual income. You can make money off of ad revenue and you can get sponsorships. If you're ultra niche sports, or something, there's people who want to be in front of those people. For Brandy's, it's single moms, good plumbers, right? Single mom needs some help with that, right? She's going to be asking for that. Plumbers, electricians, all that stuff. Hey, if you want to be the plumber I send you to, I need $5,000. You'll get way more business now. It's okay if you don't. I've got like 5 more now. It's just like people want to be in front of that audience. If you can get them business and stuff like that, you can make more money too on sponsorships, which is huge. So one episode here, right? This is just repurposing one episode. Start with why. Simon Sinek, you guys probably heard of him. Nick's my co-host. He gets on there and he's a little bit younger than me, so he's the ideal person because we talk to young professionals and college students, who are trying to figure out their purpose, right? This is the point where you have the greatest degree of change in your life and you're making the biggest life-altering decisions you'll ever make with itty-bitty little life experience. So we're trying to help those people. We come out with this podcast, and then it turns into an Instagram reel. Not every single part of it, but that's like a 1-minute clip of this 13-minute episode. Here's another clip, and another one. Same episode, another 1,000. So we're talking about 10,000 views from 3 out of 8 clips that came from this episode. And then every single episode, you're able to put marketing links that you want people to go see. If you're just starting a podcast, book a free consultation, and then it can just pop up in my schedule. It's going out to people. And the bigger you get, the more leads that you'll get from that. And having obviously really professionally done. So, this whole episode is basically about not quitting, not giving up when something gets hard, because if you are the best person usually around, you usually don't have to try the hardest. It's very rare that you have a Michael Jordan who's better than everyone and works harder than everybody all the freaking time. And we're talking about this because people will try to figure out their major in college or try to figure out what they're wanting to do, and then they'll find some resistance. Maybe they really love it, but they just don't know how yet, or there's someone a little better than them. There's actually studies done. If you go to a Ivy League school versus a state school, you could have the same scores and people will flunk out a Ivy Leagues or in general be like, they're literally just as smart as everyone else, but because of the social pressure, there's people around them who are maybe a little smarter than them that's ever happened, and they quit. So we go on to talk this. If you watch this whole episode, you're going to really understand my heart and what I care about, and you might even share that mission. If you do, you'll probably follow this, and you probably listen to the next episode, and you'll keep up with me. And I guess, hey, you know what? If you ever want to start a podcast, even if you don't start one today, you might start one later. So having this kind of stuff repurposed, this 4-minute clip is from the 12-minute episode. There's 3 4-minute clips from that episode. And then there's like 8 reels. We're talking about 11 posts from one episode. When you have really, really good branding, look at that.
I got a 3:30 appointment. I'm out.
Okay. So really good branding, when you get really into this is what we do with our consulting clients like Brandy. This took us a while to come up with, but we figured Mom, You're Not Alone is a perfect name for a podcast, because how many moms who go through a crazy thing like Brandy's been through, you know, her story, basically losing a husband, hear this in a conversation, hey Mom, you're not alone. So what happens is there's an emotional reaction to those 3 words. They click it, they listen, it's exactly for them, and they'll stay on. So you're branding a phrase. That's why Google is really good. Just Google it. It's a verb, right? Mom, you're not alone is a phrase you use. Knowledge gap's a phrase you'll use. And the reason we need a lot of you guys to start podcasts is because a lot of people struggle with what you used to struggle with. If you are even mildly successful, I promise you there's a huge demographic of people who need your knowledge. They have no idea what they're doing. Okay, the average income is like $50,000 a year. If you're beating that, anywhere near that, you're in the 50 plus percentile, you know, of the best people in the world with your knowledge. There's a stat, if you're born in the US, it's like a 3% chance. And you have access to education and healthcare. There's only 13% of everybody in the entire planet who has access to healthcare and education. And so that means there's like 87% of people who didn't grow up the way you did and probably don't know what you know. There's something you're an expert in that people need, right? The average wealth for 45 to 54-year-olds is $100,000. Imagine retiring on $100,000. If you know those kind of numbers, it doesn't really work well. They have a wealth knowledge gap, right? Done is way better than perfect, and doing your best and trying to help people. That's the whole purpose of podcasting. And you've got to have a why. But if you don't, write down why you do what you do. And this is how you figure out, okay, what should a podcast be if I start one? What's my ideal client? What's my ideal person? And your goal is to have a mission in a podcast and your social media content around why you do what you do. And that's how you're going to be in front of people who love doing business with you all the time. And if you can do it like Brandy does, where she works with us, she spends 1 hour a week prepping content. We will go record with her. That'll take, one sitting. She'll prep for an hour beforehand, and it'll turn into a bunch of posts that she's going to have, and it'll turn into a video like this. So it takes an hour of effort a week. Can you hear it?
Hey guys, I'm Brandy Lyon, host and founder of Mom, You're Not Alone podcast. This podcast is about empowering single moms to reach their financial freedom. Some of the things we're going to discuss are budgeting, setting goals, mindset, how to retire early, and how to make money while you sleep. So ladies, if you have a similar story and want to join our community of strong, independent moms, click and subscribe today, because Mom, You're Not Alone.
That's pretty
Awesome.
I totally agree. That's the kind of clients I like to work with. And she's got a mission, and she's overcome a lot to basically get to this point. She's just making content that helps you. And guess what? Those people who are trying to build wealth, what's the natural step? You buy a house at some point in that journey. She's going to change a lot of lives. She's going to have a lot of speaking gigs from it. It's going to be really cool, And so what she's done, she's gotten over some of these personal challenges. This is what everybody has to go through if they want to go start a podcast and make a big impact on that scale, especially because you got to put yourself out there. You got to be vulnerable. You got to be personable. So there's all of this failure involved. Statistic is that people who start podcasts on average will quit. 97% of people quit at episode 7 because they get so overwhelmed. And I hit that moment too. I felt that moment. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. My name's not right. I'm not doing this correctly. No one's listening to it. I'm putting all this effort in. My editing sucks. Because I was trying to do everything on my own. When you start off and you're just trying to figure it out, I definitely learned more than most people who don't quit at that spot. That's why, I started the business and why, Brandy trusts me to help her. That's what I offer. It's like, I will save you 8 months of frustration, help you not quit, and make sure it's really good, because you should have seen my first trailer. It made no sense and was no good at all. And in fact, it probably hurt the brand at the beginning. That's why we rebranded at some point. But if you do things the right way, you won't quit. And one of the books I've read that you should read is called The Dip. It is by Seth Godin, really good marketing book. But you want to be in an industry that most people can't get into. They quit. Because then what you have is really valuable. Because once the podcast is big, everyone's going to want to be a part of it. Okay, so some of the things you have to get over, and this is why you got to remember your why, right? To not give up. Those are the moments when you're like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. The first time we recorded, she probably had like 100 clips of messing it up, But it doesn't matter because we have a really good editor. And they'll fix it for you. Didn't that look good, right? Didn't look like anything like that. So a lot of times people quit because it takes a lot of time. Because again, they're a one-man wrecking crew. It took me forever to do everything by myself. And it is awkward at the beginning, and you will mess up. And sometimes you might have to take something down, and that's okay, right? We literally had an episode a week or two ago where it didn't hit right with our audience. And that's like, even if you're good at it and you're growing consistently, you still might have something like that, right? If you can kind of overcome those things, you'll have a great podcast, and that's what we help with.
Podcast always pre-recorded.
Some people do them live. It depends on what you're going for. Brandy's a perfect example, right? Her target audience is a single mom who just went through this crazy life event. It's where we call our client journey. It's at the beginning of her client journey. Her husband, whatever happened, divorce, death, or whatever, oh my gosh, I need help. That's where she wants to pick up listeners. And anyone who's gone through that, you're talking about live or not, where she wants to come in is like, moms spend a lot of time in the car pickup line.
Mm-hmm.
So her podcast is geared towards people in the car pickup line.
So they can just play it. And
So they can just play it.
Watch it or listen live.
They can just listen. So for that simple question, it just depends on where your audience is. You can basically create anything you need for different platforms and help you with consulting on which platforms to post on. We have a social media managers. They can post free for you. Audio and video editing service. If you want a really professional video, we rent out Nick over there. So he's a real nice guy. Of course, we have the professional equipment, camera work, all that kind of stuff. We have professional mics and stuff that you guys can use. We got you. It's like imagine a concierge service for all of your social media needs. We can just custom make everything. Okay, so before we get to the boat 1 and 2, okay, this is something just in general for you guys. If you ever, do a podcast or have these different things that you're going to be posting on, you want everyone to go ahead and scan this. So I want you to go to the platforms. There's like Instagram on there. If you scroll down, there's YouTube, there's Spotify, Apple Podcasts. So once you pick whichever platform you use the most, okay, I want you to go ahead and click on that link. It'll take you to my page. Go ahead and follow that page so you can keep up with me, because when you guys do this, if you do this, I hope you do, it's really helpful. Every time you give a speech, every time you're talking, every time you're teaching, every time you meet somebody, you want to link them up with what you're doing so they know who you are, your mission, and can keep up with you, because it's impossible to keep up with thousands and thousands of people by calling them manually or texting them manually. But put out one content post, everybody sees it. That's kind of the idea. Linktree's free. Yep, Linktree's free, and those are things we can create for you too, and get all your links set up. We can set up platforms for you. Really, anything you guys need, we can basically make it happen for you with the consulting business. Now, if you're somebody too who's you enjoy motivational emails, we have a motivational email. If you go scan it again, you can scroll down. There's a weekly motivational email if you're somebody who enjoys those types of things. So we have all these platforms and all these different areas where people can learn about what we're doing. And that email is pretty cool too, because it gives you updates on the foundation. So we're building high school clubs where we can help kids solve the problem of networking. So we've had a ton of fun. This has been a lot of fun. Have you guys learned something? Been helpful? A lot of stuff? Good. So go ahead and scan this for me. So my post-workshop survey is going to ask you a few questions about the workshop, and start filling that out. At the end, it's going to ask you if you're boat 1 or boat 2. Boat 1 being hey, I'd love to follow up with Joe, learn about his services. I could possibly leverage some of this. I'd at least like to talk about it. No commitment there. It's totally free. And then I will have a little huddle with the boat 1s, and we can pick some times and all that kind of stuff. And then I'd love to meet up with you at coffee, lunch, or at the office.